Universities halt 800 million in capital projects. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I thought we'd have a look at this article sent to me by a viewer from the Financial Review regarding universities pausing 800 million on capital projects. Now, his concern was that this is going to have a flow on to the construction industry. And he's probably right. Universities are a competitive sector, but a, prestigious sector to get into for construction projects. Rachel has worked on some while she was with a previous employer. She designed part of the law library at UQ, did some work there, and it looked quite beautiful. I've had other friends who've worked on, as tradies, who've worked on some fit outs and some, installations at these universities, these refurbishments. They're quite, let's just say big spenders. Big spenders, high-end products. They want to attract their students. They want their buildings to look quite good. So they're clients that you kind of want to compete to get in for. Well, an $800 million pause or halt on their capital projects, that's going to hit a lot of people in construction, all the way through to designers to tradies. This is one of the industries that, you'd be hoping would be, in a practice, you want to have multiple sectors that you work in. You want to do a bit of retail. You want to do a bit of mining. You want to do a bit of housing. You want to do a bit of university work. The problem is you tend to get, a bit of aged care too. The problem is you tend to get kind of specialized in one sector and you just build up that and you get relationships there and you can get too tied into one sector. So you've got firms that all of a sudden, boom, the pipe turns off and then they have to pivot. Times get really tough and it's hard to find work. I remember there was my former landlord, when I had a office in the back of a warehouse in West End. He was friends with another architect up the road. And what had happened is that guy was, he had his whole firm and he was doing just development work, and it just dried up. So all of a sudden his firm just shrank and he left his office and got sick and tired of just chasing it. That was the big fear I had, because we would often have a big portion of our revenue coming from one client in one industry. When we first started, we got our foot in the door with some modular work in the mining, and we were working on mining jobs. I had to end up, I had 4 people. I went from 0 to 4 staff really quick. We probably grew a bit too quick, to be honest. Just working on concept proposals for one of the big builders here doing modular work, which is really good. It actually, now that I think about it, it has given us some skill in modular design and volumetric modular design that we can deploy now in education. So we've transferred it around. It's led to health and other things. But I would always fight to get into retail and to get into shopping centers, anything we could. I remember I was trying to get into calls really hard because I wanted to get in there. Finally did. I got one opportunity. We did a point cloud for them. And they wanted a fee for me to do the Rivet modeling. And I gave them a fee. And they said, "Oh, you're so expensive." And I go, "Well, what do you expect?" And it was like a fraction of my cost to do it. And I realized you've got no idea how much it costs to run a business. What are you talking about? And that's when I learned how much of a, tight client they were. And I didn't really chase them after that. That's part of the lessons you learn. But for us, one of the challenges was trying to get a diversity of work from different clients in different sectors. I can see this may hit some people in the industry pretty hard, particularly in architecture if you tend to focus on one sector. So let's have a look. Deakin University put a planned new science precinct development on hold as it responds to slumping revenue. Part of a capital squeeze worth an estimated 800 million across just 3 universities. So we're just talking 3 universities here, everyone. 3 universities. The freeze of the plan to develop 20,000 square meters in a new 8-level building and refurbish some existing builds at Deakin's suburban Melbourne Burwood campus, a project industry source valued at 145 million, is one of a string of higher education capital projects to be shelved. See, and this is the thing you'd hate. And I've been in this situation before where, your client tells you, yeah, this project's going ahead, it's happening. You keep the team on, you keep people on longer than you should have. Because the thing is, if you've developed skills in your team, if they've got the capabilities, you don't want to just abandon that. And you kind of like your staff. The crap ones that you don't like are gone. The good ones you keep. So you want to keep them. You want to keep your team. And then if all of a sudden, this can happen one day to the next, cross the line out, boom, project can be gone. The project very recently has been paused at a suitable stage in design, a university spokesperson told the Australian Financial Review on Wednesday. It will be reviewed in November. The reason is to retain design flexibility to meet the potential for changed needs. Well, that's true. You want to make sure that you don't push ahead with a project, particularly with education or even healthcare or even aged care, where by the time you've finished construction, because of the time frames you're talking here, the project could be out of date. Deakin's Rise project, designed by architecture firm DCM, is one of a number of STEM projects to halt in the current environment, posing a threat to the country's development of scientific knowledge. I think that's a bit of a stretch, really. I think our scientific knowledge will certainly be capable, will be able to continue in some of the existing buildings they have. It may just not be as flash. It may take a little bit longer, but I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be fine. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. The brakes, I think it's going to have a hit to architecture, design, consultancy, and the construction sector. I think they're going to feel a lot quicker. The brakes have been slammed on a sector that only 2 years ago couldn't swap mortar boards for hard hats quickly enough as institutions sought to update existing facilities and build new ones. Both the ambitious plans have crashed back to earth as the pandemic prevents access for foreign students whose fees largely fund the capital work. And there is the big issue. There is the issue. That's why the universities are chasing these students. We're so dependent on their revenue stream, guys. We're so dependent on their revenue stream. The slowdown will not only hit the competition between universities to offer the best facilities and in turn attract more fee-paying students, but also points to a downturn in the facilities' higher education they can offer local students. Universities are going through convulsions at the moment, said Peter Hurley, a policy fellow at the Mitchell Institute education think tank. The losses are extraordinary. There are going to be cuts to teachers, and the people who are going to feel it are domestic students. Well, okay. I'd rather have cut some of the admin staff that don't really, that add to the bureaucracy. I mean, the bureaucracy, if you look at the numbers at universities, look at the professional education staff and the research staff compared to the non-professional staff, which has grown over the last 20 years, that'll tell you where the fat is. That'll tell you where the fat is. I remember there's one instance, and I'll go to story time now. There's one instance where I had I was tutoring a class, a first year class, and in architecture often you'll have to go out and visit on site. That's just normal. You'll have a site in the city, and you'll be expected to go on your own time to go there and take photographs, do sketches, analyze the site, get an appreciation for the context. I even went out there and used a spot level to measure the levels of a site so we could make an accurate model. If I had a point cloud scanner, I would have done that too. And, we do that all the time. When I started, we were working 4 days a week in an office, 4 days. You'd have 1 day at university, so you'd have to make up for, doing these field trips and other things on your own time. Now, I had, in this one subject, it was quite a remote area. It was up on the Sunshine Coast. And, I mean, that's fine. I went to Newcastle once. We all, by ourselves, traveled down to Newcastle to look at the city for a project we were working on. No university funding, no university project, just a bunch of us got together and did it. Okay, and did it. That's what I was used to. I was used to, going out, at 10 o'clock at night, couldn't work. I went to the crew bar, sit there, have a beer, and just look at my site and sketch. That's what you did. That's what you did in architecture. And I thought that was normal. But then in this subject, this was a first year subject, and it was a bit of an airy-fairy, touchy-feely subject, and that anyone could do to kind of get a feel for the stuff there in design. And we had one lady, and she was a bureaucrat at the university, a younger one, and she worked for the university and going, you can't tell me to go out on site. It needs to be a university-sanctioned event. You need to tick this box, this box, this box, and this box. There needs to all be organized. I can't do it. All the education needs to be done in this time window, this 1 hour here. And I couldn't believe it. I could believe it. And this was a few years ago, so the whole Karen thing and social justice at university, I honestly thought it was a bit of a joke. There's a reason why I'm not tutoring anymore. I thought it was a bit of a joke. I didn't take these people seriously at all. at all. And, it was just the entitlement and the lack of putting in extra effort. And that just shows you there's a mentality there that just is an anchor around the neck of a lot of people in these institutions. And let's just say she didn't do too well. She didn't put in the extra effort that was needed. And compared to the students that would go above and beyond, at least she gave me an interesting story. That sense of entitlement. I hadn't encountered that before. So, yeah, I don't think she did too well on the subject either. Maybe she complained about me. Probably did. It's funny. I'd have students that would either love me and give me straight marks or would hate me. I had a strategy. I saw myself as a facilitator, not as a teacher. And I said, we're all in this together to learn together. So I'd make every week the students would have to pin up all their work and they would have to present what they'd done, even if they'd done hardly anything. To get used to presenting, because that's a big part of architecture. You need to get up there and sell your design. You need to convince someone about your argument. I'd say you could challenge what the lecturers put towards you. You can use critical thinking and develop your own counter argument, but you need to have evidence to support that. And that frustrated me in later years when I started to see that disappearing, where students wouldn't even bother questioning what they were put forward, particularly with regards to the greenwashing, because it really frustrated me that there's ideologically architects, which shocked me because I thought architects were intelligent, tend to lean more towards the left. It just shows my naivete right there. And I would quite often challenge that at university, back when you still could. And perhaps in my course, there was more of a modicum of respect for people putting counter arguments too that were thoroughly and evidence-based. That's what they liked. You wouldn't get slammed back in the day. But that tended to disappear, and I couldn't really handle the stress of that, to be honest. I took it too personally. I said, why aren't you questioning this? Look at this. Anyway, so back to the story here. That was a bit of a segue, but essentially there's a lot of bureaucratic carbs that can be cut out of the diet that is the universities. So Queensland Griffith University said on Wednesday it had cut $300 million from the $1 billion it had planned to spend in a 5-year strategic plan to build a new campus in central Brisbane and separate research facility as well as new buildings at its Nathan campus. So there you go, $300 million gone. The planned Brisbane CBD campus remains a priority, however. There will now be a reduction in the size and layout of the building, a spokesperson said. The design will ensure we have scope to grow into the site later. Plans are now on hold for a major capital investment in an advanced design and prototyping technology 2.0 building at the Gold Coast Health and Knowledge Precinct. That was interesting, actually. I was one of the first architecture students at QUT to use 3D printing there before we had the consumer printing. I went to we had the health precinct there, and they were printing out joints, and I used it to print out an architectural model, and the machine time cost like thousands of dollars. That's the one advantage of uni. That's one thing I tried to teach all my first years, was that you are paying. You're paying to join an alumni in a club. They're not going to teach you anything, but you've got access to all the facilities here, and you need to step up and take advantage of it. That's the one takeaway. Some of them did. Some of them responded and really took advantage of it. Others just want to be, led along for the ride. I butted heads with lecturers that treated university students like children. I really found that patronizing and disgusting. It really sickened me in some ways. And, well, you can imagine how the feminist ones were like, treating them like kids, giving them candy and all this shit. And I'm going, no, they're adults. Make them work. Don't make it easy for them. If they can't handle it, they're not going to handle it out of uni. So, yeah, well, there you go. I can't imagine that surprises many of you that are watching this. The University of Queensland deferred construction of $64.5 million health and rehabilitation centre that was due to start this year, and also delayed a decision on a planned $300 million science precinct building. Not all construction is stopping, of course. At UQ, work on a $96 million student accommodation project continued. Melbourne Business School, part of the University of Melbourne, on Wednesday said a plan to develop a new building adjacent to its current one in inner suburban Carlton was still being actively pursued. In March, the University of Sydney put a freeze on spending, including buildings, to avert a reported $200 million budget shortfall. There you go. That's how it can happen from one day to the next. In April, the University of Melbourne said it would freeze up to $350 million in capital works projects. So there we have it, everyone. Huge hits to the construction sector due to just the university pulling back. Are you working in this game, everyone? Are you a tradie? Are you a designer? Are you working in the university sector? What are your plans to deal with these falls? What are your plans? Let us know in the comments, everyone. Have you encountered this? Have you kept your team on board in hopes of a project and it's been pulled out from under you? Let us know. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin. You can buy our merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. I'll see you in the next episode.